The biggest food mistakes don't taste bad, they just hurt you later. Today, 33 dumb food safety mistakes people ignore. Like rinsing raw chicken and splashing germs onto everything nearby. Or leaving leftovers out just a bit, then reheating like it resets time. Stay for number 33. The last one is insane. Raw chicken, splashing salmonella all over your sink. One quick rinse turned the sink into a bacteria sprinkler. In New York, Rutgers microbiologist Don Schaffner watched droplets fly. His team set agar plates like targets around a faucet. They pressed raw chicken, then ran water like most cooks. Specks landed on counter edges, soap bottle, and nearby towels. What shocked them was how far it traveled past the sink. Even the spice jars got tagged once hands touched them. Later, everything looked clean, but invisible dots stayed put, so the quick rinse feels helpful and still backfires hard. 2. Thawing meat on the counter just this once. By dinner, the outside warmed while the center stayed frozen. In Ohio, food safety specialist Daniel Schalk sees it yearly. A turkey sits on the counter, and time starts winning. The skin hits the danger zone while ice remains inside. Some families think the oven will erase that head start. But germs multiply on surfaces long before the roasting begins. Inspectors hear the same line after holiday stomach bugs spread. Here is the trick: the bird can look fine throughout. Then the leftovers become the only clue something went wrong. 3. Not washing hands after touching raw eggs. A clean breakfast turned into a week of miserable cramps. In 2010, Iowa eggs were tied to Salmonella enteritidis. The farm's length included Wright County Egg and Hillendale. Owner Jack DeCoster became a name on every evening newscast. At home, it started with cracking shells and wiping hands. Then someone grabbed the fridge handle, then the salt shaker. Soon, the kitchen looked normal, but surfaces kept a trail. Investigators later matched strains from patients to those eggs. All because soap never met hands after raw egg contact. 4. Using the same cutting board for raw meat. The salad was cooked, yet the cutting board told another story. In Cambodia, researchers recreated home cooking across 4 provinces. They washed chicken twice, then chopped herbs on one board. After one quick wash, salmonella still clung to grooves. Swabs showed boards stayed contaminated more than hands did. What fooled everyone was the clean-looking board seeding vegetables. One scenario used separate tools, and the salad stayed clear. Same tools meant the bacteria hit basil, cucumber, and tomatoes. That little plank can quietly turn dinner into an outbreak. 5. Rinsing raw chicken in the sink. You see, it feels like cleaning, but it mostly cleans the chicken wrong. The FDA has warned for years, yet the habit persists. In 2022, Christopher Carmody tested rinsing like real kitchens. He used harmless bacteria and a faucet running at home speed. Water hit the carcass, then bounced into tiny invisible droplets. Those droplets landed on towels, counter edges, and even plates. The fake out is you stop rinsing once it looks clear. But the sink zone stays contaminated long after the water stops. So the rinse swaps one dirty surface for 5 others. 6. Undercooking chicken because it looks done. The chicken looked golden, but salmonella kept its grip. In 2013, investigators chased a Heidelberg strain across many states. The trail kept circling back to Foster Farms' chicken packages. Some people swore it was cooked because juices ran clear. Then emergency rooms saw the same stomach story, days apart. Health officials even pulled matching chicken from one California home. That tiny detail made the outbreak feel suddenly personal. It is why looks and smell never replace real heat. 7. Eating rare ground beef at home. A pink burger can rewrite your week or your life. In early 1993, kids in Washington showed up with bloody diarrhea. Dr. Phil Tarr called epidemiologist John Kobayashi with alarms. They traced it to undercooked patties from Jack in the Box. Daycare spread it after another child carried E. coli home. Parents thought rare meant gourmet, like steak, just smaller. Ground beef mixes everything, so germs hide throughout the patty. That outbreak made thermometers famous and pink burgers less cute. 8. Leaving pizza out overnight and eating it. That midnight slice can come with toxins you cannot cook away. In Brussels, a student once ate pasta left on a counter. Doctors later blamed Bacillus cereus, a common starchy food germ. Pizza sits similarly, warm crust and cheese, perfect for growth. Overnight, bacteria can build toxins, while the box looks innocent. Reheating melts the cheese, but the toxins can stay active. Oddly, you might feel fine until hours later too. Then cramps hit like a wave, and everyone blames yesterday. So pizza needs a timer, not midnight bravery today. 9. Not reheating leftovers hot enough. The beef came out steaming, yet people got sick by sunset. In Connecticut, September 2016, a catered lunch ended badly. CDC investigators interviewed co-workers who ate the beef dish. The caterer cooked meat early, then held it for hours. Clostridium perfringens spores survived, waiting for a warm window. When reheating was rushed, the center stayed lukewarm and risky. At first, coffee and cake looked guilty, until details matched. Stool tests finally pointed back to the beef, not dessert. A rushed heat-up is not a reset for leftovers. 10. Cooling big pots of soup too slowly. The pot was huge, and the cooling time became the villain. After that Connecticut lunch, inspectors noticed containers filled to brim. Hot beef sat in deep tubs, stacked tight in small fridges. In the middle, heat lingered like a campfire under a blanket. That warm core let Clostridium perfringens wake up and multiply. Nobody saw it, because the surface felt chilled quickly. By morning, the stew smelled normal, and everyone relaxed. What catches people is slow cooling sets a trap before reheating. Big batches need shallow pans, or the center stays dangerous. 11. Packing hot food straight into the fridge. Stuffing hot food inside can quietly warm everything around it. Investigators in Connecticut found fridges packed with still warm tubs. The door stayed closed, but the thermostat fought a losing battle. Milk, salad, and deli meat climbed into unsafe temperatures nearby. One hot pot can spoil unrelated foods, and nobody suspects it. Cold air cannot move when containers touch and block vents. Later, people blamed the chicken, but the fridge was culprit. A health officer even measured warm shelves behind that steaming pot. Cooling first prevents the whole refrigerator from becoming a heat box. 12. Smell test to decide if food is safe. The melon smelled sweet, yet it carried a silent passenger. In 2011, cantaloupes from Jensen Farms spread listeria nationwide. Brothers Eric Jensen and Ryan Jensen ran the Colorado operation. Shoppers sliced fruit, tasted summer, and noticed nothing strange. Listeria does not need slime, stink, or visible mold to harm. Weeks later, investigators mapped cases across states, not kitchens. What made it scary was the fruit looked fresh until biting. So the smell test fails on the worst bugs. Your nose is great for smoke, not for listeria. 13. Thinking organic means germ-free. The word organic sounded safe until the salad sent people to hospitals. In 2018, romaine from Yuma, Arizona sparked a major scare. Investigators traced E. coli to water near a leafy field. Some bags were labeled organic, some were not. Same outcome. Families in New Jersey and New York tossed lettuce by the armful. The strange part, the farm looked pristine, yet bacteria rode along. Organic rules cover chemicals, not microbes from soil, water, or hands. Health officials kept repeating that washing helps, but cannot fix everything. So organic is a farming choice, not a magic shield. 14. Leaving cooked rice out. Rice can turn from comfort food to a toxin trap fast. Around 2008, a Belgian student ate pasta left out overnight. Doctors blamed Bacillus cereus, often nicknamed fried rice syndrome. It forms spores that survive cooking, then wake during warm holding. A part of rice on the stove cools slowly in its center. Hours later, it still tastes fine, which is the trick. Worst part, reheating may not destroy toxin already made. Restaurants chill rice fast and store it cold for a reason. Leaving it out invites a germ that loves starch and time. 15. Eating leftover rice days later without reheating. The rice survived the fridge, but the microwave barely touched it. Food doctors call Bacillus cereus a spore former, like seeds. If rice sat warm first, spores can grow before chilling. Days later, you reheat a bowl, but hot spots fool you. One corner steams, another stays lukewarm under a clump. What fools you is the smell stays neutral, so you trust it. Leftover rice stories show why even fridge food needs real heat. Microwaves cook unevenly, so rice becomes a roulette wheel. 16. Keeping leftovers longer than 3-4 days. The container became a science exhibit, and you were the curator. Food safety guides often use a simple 4-day leftovers rule. In real kitchens, people forget dates, and lids hide the timeline. By day 6, bacteria can climb even in a cold fridge. The Steria is the sneaky one because it tolerates refrigerator temperatures. The sneaky part is, leftovers can look perfect, especially soups. Then someone eats it after work, blaming stress when nausea hits. A Sharpie date would have stopped the whole drama. Leftovers are safe when managed, not when guessed and hoped. 17. Not using a food thermometer ever. The steak got a standing ovation, but nobody checked its center. Food safety professor Ben Chapman studies how people judge doneness. Most say they use thermometers, then admit they never do. They poke meat, watch juices, and trust vibes like a horoscope. During outbreaks, investigators hear those same phrases over and over. Even pros misjudge, especially thick burgers and chicken, under pressure. A thermometer ends arguments because numbers do not flatter you. Chapman calls it a cheap tool that prevents expensive hospital bills. Once you start using it, the guesswork suddenly feels childish. 18. Trusting color instead of temperature. Brown can lie, and burgers prove that in the worst way. At Jack in the Box in 1993, patties looked cooked. Inside, East Coley 0157 still survived, despite the brown crust. The chain had a monster burger promotion that boosted demand. Busy grills ran fast, and visual cues replaced careful timing. Parents trusted color, then watched kids get sicker, day by day. Epidemiologists kept asking one question: how do you know it is done? Color answers are guesses, especially with thicker patties and low heat. A thermometer ends the argument, because bacteria do not see brown. 19. Letting raw meat drip on fridge shelves. One drip from a steak package can contaminate a whole fridge. USDA expert Meredith Carruthers calls it gravity cross contamination, relentless. A leaking tray slides, and raw juice trails down a shelf seam. Then it hits the drawer handles, the milk carton, the apple bag. Nobody notices because the puddle hides under containers, perfectly. In outbreak interviews, people swear they never touched raw meat. But the fridge became the meeting point, not the cutting board. USDA photos show packages on wire racks, dripping onto produce below. The fridge should store raw meat low, or drips win. 20. Storing raw meat above ready-to-eat foods. The sandwich ingredients were innocent, but their shelf neighbor was not. In that Connecticut catering kitchen, refrigerator space was crammed tight. Cooked food tubs and raw meats were stacked like Tetris blocks. When raw sat above ready foods, gravity did the dirty work. Contamination moves even when nobody touches anything, which is wild. A single leak can reach salad, fruit, or cooked beef. Later, people blame the mayonnaise because it is an easy suspect. Sarah Bradiger warns shelf order is the plot twist in investigations. Raw belongs low, ready foods high, like a simple food pyramid. 21. Marinating meat on the counter. The marinade smelled amazing, but the counter became a petri dish. Kansas State scientist Karen Blakesley hears that myth every summer. In summer cookouts, chicken sits marinating while guests arrive late. Meanwhile, the surface warms, and salmonella gets extra time. You think the bag is sealed, so nobody worries. But temperature inside still rises quickly, even without air. Health departments routinely trace backyard outbreaks to hours on counters. Cooks later bragged the marinade was overnight, not realizing the risk. Marinating is fine, but it belongs cold, not beside the stove. 22. Reusing marinade as sauce without boiling. That glossy sauce can be raw chicken juice with better branding. Tupelo chef Cooper Miller warns leftover marinade is not sauce. But it has touched raw meat, and bacteria hitchhike in. In interviews, officials hear someone say they just poured it on. Then the cooked steak gets contaminated right at the finish. One California barbecue investigation found the sauce bowl on the same plate. Guests ate first, then blamed the potato salad, not the sauce. When you heat it properly, the flavor survives and bacteria do not. So treat marinades like raw meat, unless they are boiled. 23. Using the same tongs for raw and cooked meat. The tongs did the betrayal, not the grill itself. At a July cookout, one pair touched raw chicken first. Minutes later, the same tongs moved cooked pieces onto buns. Nobody noticed because the metal looked clean after a quick shake. Bacteria transfer happens faster than you can blink. Truly. Ohio State specialist Sanja Elik calls it utensil cross-contamination. When people got sick, the host blamed the chicken supplier instead. Then someone remembered the tongs never went to soap or heat. 2 sets of tongs are cheaper than 1 missed work week. 24. Serving food with the raw plate. The clean platter was actually the dirtiest thing on the table. Meredith Carruthers warns when cooks reuse plates that held raw steaks. Once grilled, the meat went back onto that plate for serving. Any juices left behind became an instant sauce of bacteria. Guests see grill marks and assume safety is finished. During one Connecticut lunch outbreak, inspectors found food moved between containers. They even spotted disposable gloves washed for reuse, like a shortcut. Shortcuts stack up, and the serving plate becomes the final slip. Separate raw and cooked plates, or the grill work gets undone. 25. Wiping instead of washing contaminated counters. A single wipe can spread a virus further than a sneeze. In December 2015, a Chipotle in Boston suddenly shut down. Officials suspected norovirus after waves of vomiting hit customers. An apprentice manager reportedly got sick, then kept working anyway. 2 days later, a catering order went to Boston College players. What shocked officials was cloth wiping moved germs to new surfaces. Norovirus needs real disinfection, not a quick towel swipe. Public health teams retrace touch points, handles, counters, and drink stations. It is a reminder that clean looking is not clean. 26. Using a dirty sponge to clean everything. That cheerful sponge can be the scariest thing in your kitchen. In Germany, Microbiologist Marcus Eggert studied used household sponges closely. His team found dense bacteria communities hiding in moist sponge pores. Some species were linked with infections, especially for vulnerable people. Rinsing makes it feel fresh, while feeding microbes underneath. You wipe a counter, then a plate, then a baby bottle. Eggert compared it to spreading germs with a reusable paintbrush. Dishcloths dried faster, and their bacterial load stayed lower. So the sponge can turn cleaning into contamination, one swipe at a time. 27. The frosting food in hot water. Hot water thaws the outside into the danger zone instantly. The center stays icy, so people keep soaking it longer. Ohio State's Sanja Illich sees it in sinks during lunch rush. Germs wake up before the meat even looks thawed. When cooking starts, the outside can already be loaded with bacteria. Inspectors photograph those sinks because it is a repeat violation. People think hot water is faster, but it is riskier. Cold water changes the story because temperature stays controlled. 28. Refreezing thawed meat without cooking. Refreezing feels like undoing time, but bacteria do not rewind. A package thaws in the fridge, then plans change, so it returns. Don Schaffner says quality drops, but safety can survive cold thawing. The drama starts when it thawed warm on a counter. Now bacteria had hours, and refreezing just pauses them. Next thaw makes them surge faster, like restarting a race. Investigators call it temperature abuse, and it shows in timelines. People often cannot remember the first thaw, only the second. So the safest rule is track thaws, not just freezer space. 29. Not washing produce before cutting. A cucumber can look spotless, yet carry salmonella on its skin. In 2015, a Salmonella pona outbreak was linked to cucumbers. They were grown in Baja California, Mexico, then shipped widely. Andrew and Williamson distributed them, and kitchens sliced them daily. Investigators even found clusters tied to restaurants and daycare meals. Parents remembered cucumbers as the healthy side, not the suspect. So rinse produce before cutting, or the blade becomes a shortcut. 30. Cutting produce on a raw meat board. A cutting board can turn a healthy snack into the villain. During that 2015 cucumber outbreak, Alaska tracked a daycare cluster. Investigators asked how cucumbers were prepped alongside other foods. One common mistake is using the same board used for raw meat. Groups hold juices, and a quick rinse cannot erase them. Then cucumber rounds pick up bacteria like wheels rolling through mud. The board looks clean because stains hide deep in cuts. Kids eat first, adults blame playground germs, and the kitchen wins. Separate boards sound fuzzy, until you see how outbreaks begin. 31. Eating raw cookie dough or cake batter. The dough tastes like childhood, but it can carry adult problems. In 2009, people got E. coli after eating raw cookie dough. The product was Nestle Toll House refrigerated dough from supermarkets. Teams admitted sneaking spoonfuls straight from the tub at night. Doctors noticed severe stomach symptoms, and labs confirmed the same strain. First, eggs got blamed. Then, flour became the surprise suspect. Officials warned that heat, not hope, is what makes batter safe. The recalls taught families that raw dough is not a snack. So lick the spoon after baking, not before the oven works. 32. Leaving dairy out during long meals. Creamy foods can turn risky when they sit like a centerpiece. In 2015, Bluebell ice cream was tied to listeria illnesses. The company was based in Texas, and the story went national. Listeria can survive cold, so warm dairy at dinner is worse. Picture a holiday table with cheese, sour cream, and eggnog lingering. Everyone keeps nibbling, stretching the clock into hours again. Then Monday arrives, and several relatives compared the same stomach misery. Investigators often start with dairy because it spoils quietly in warmth. Dairy belongs chilled between servings, not parked on the table. 33. Keeping takeout too long before refrigerating. Takeout feels safe in its box, but time keeps counting. After an office lunch, trays often sit while meetings drag on. In that Connecticut outbreak, food stayed out during prep and service. Then people packed leftovers, thinking the fridge will forgive everything. Clostridium perfringens loves warm meat, and it grows fast. Symptoms can hit within hours, before anyone even sleeps. Cow workers compare notes, realizing they all ate the boxed beef. Nobody suspects the waiting time, because the food tasted normal. So, treat takeout like leftovers, chill it soon, or regret. Not heating deli meat when you should. A cold deli sandwich can hide listeria like a stowaway. In 2008, Maple Leaf Foods faced a deadly outbreak in Canada. The trail pointed to ready-to-eat meats made in Toronto. CEO Michael McCain went on television, apologizing directly to families. Many victims were seniors who ate sliced deli meat straight from packages. A quick heating step could have lowered the risk, quietly. Listeria can grow in the fridge, so old slices get riskier. Public health messages suddenly mentioned hot sandwiches, not just cold cuts. That outbreak made deli meat feel ordinary and strangely dangerous. Leaving open cans in the fridge. Leaving food in an open can feels tidy, until flavors turn. Acidic foods like tomatoes can react with metal once opened. A fridge also circulates air, carrying microbes onto exposed surfaces. USDA educator Meredith Carruthers spots open cans during home kitchen audits. The twist is people do it to save dishes, missing the trade. Then the leftovers taste metallic, and someone blames the brand. Covering and transferring food also keeps odors from spreading inside. It reduces contact with can edges, which are not meant for storage. So cans are for opening, containers are for saving. Storing food in reused takeout containers. That free takeout box can become a bacteria hotel after reuse. Sarah Bradiger says single-use containers scratch and trap residue. People toss it in the dishwasher, but heat can warp the lid. Now it does not seal, so drips and air move freely. It looks clean, while microbes hide in old scratches. Food safety inspectors often see stacks of them in small restaurants. They recommend food-grade containers that can be sanitized repeatedly. At home, people reuse them for weeks, then wonder why soup turns. Sometimes cheap convenience costs more because leftovers spoil faster. Ignoring fridge temperature. Your fridge can look cold, while the center shelf runs warm. In 2025, a home temperature study found many fridges above targets. People trusted the dial, but sensors showed warm swings after door openings. Milk and deli meats ride those swings, especially on the door. You can do everything right, then lose storage safety anyway. Listeria tolerates cold, so warmer spots give it a head start. Investigators sometimes find the thermometer missing, replaced by guesswork. A cold-looking fridge can still run like a slow cooker. That is why temperature checks matter more than trusting a knob. Letting food sit out during parties too long. The party was loud, and the food became dangerous by accident. Super Bowl spreads sit out while people watch, cheer, and forget. Chicken wings cool, then rewarm, as trays get refilled repeatedly. That temperature bouncing is perfect for bacteria and toxin producers. Nobody eats one big meal, they graze for hours. So the same dish is handled, uncovered, and breathed on non-stop. Afterward, friends text about cramps, blaming the dip or the beer. Ben Chapman calls these outbreaks time temperature control failures. Parties need a plan, or leftovers become the punchline tomorrow.